Hey, my name is Jamie Aaron, and today I'm going to show you a way to enhance your blues rhythm guitar playing by moving your chords up the neck. Alright, let's talk blues rhythm guitar. When you're playing through a blues progression, you might be used to finding one chord voicing for the one chord, and playing that the whole time, another chord voicing for the 4 chord, another for the 5 chord, and just using those 3 chord shapes for the 3 chords. But if we go to a method where we're playing one chord voicing per beat, so we're playing quarter notes, we can really add a lot more propulsion to the blues playing, make our rhythm guitar parts a little more interesting. It'll sound something like this. So we're going to be playing a blues in the key of A. So our one chord, A7, we're going to start with this voicing. Just a 3-note voicing. We have our root A, our flat 7, G, and our third C sharp. Sometimes that's all you need for a good sounding chord. We're going to be skipping the 5th string, and I'm doing a little bit of muting with my middle finger so I can use a pick and not get that sound in there. But you could also use your fingers. And so what we're going to do is for the first beat, we're going to play an A7. And then instead of continuing that A7 for the entire one chord bar, we're going to move to a B minor 7. And you'll notice my fingering for this chord, it might be a little different. You may have played this chord with the bar like this. But the reason I'm playing it with my middle finger, my 3rd finger, and my 4th finger is because when I go to the B minor, I can just move my fingers like trains up and down a train track. The pinky's just going to slide up 1 fret, and the 3rd finger and the middle finger, the 2nd finger, are going to move up 2 frets, or a whole step. Makes that transition a lot easier. So our 2nd chord, B minor 7. Then our 3rd chord is going to be C diminished, also A diminished, E flat diminished, or G flat diminished. We'll just call it C diminished because it's going to have a C on the 6th string, a C in the bass. That chord is like this, C, A, and E flat. And the way I'm getting there is I'm just moving everything up by 1 fret, pulling off the 3rd finger, and swapping in my 1st finger on the 7th fret of the D string. So that middle finger and pinky are just going to move up by a half step, and then we do that little swap. So that's C diminished. And then we're going to move into this A chord with a C sharp in the bass. So that's the 3rd C sharp with your 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the 6th string. The 1st finger is going to play the A on the 7th fret of the 4th string. And your pinky is going to play the 5th on the 9th fret of the 3rd string, E. So we're going from this to this. On this transition, you can actually keep your 1st finger planted. You're going to take off the middle finger, swap in that 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the 6th string, and just move the pinky up by 1 fret. So our whole one chord passage sounds like this. Now you might be wondering, how do all these chords work over an A7? Well, A7 is definitely in there, that's the A7. B minor is in the same key as A7, so it works. This C diminished is a passing chord, and this is just an A chord, just happens to have the 3rd at the bottom. And we'll play all those as quarter notes, meaning each beat gets its own chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for our 4 chord, which is D7, we're just going to take this same little pattern, copy and paste it up to the 10th fret, and we have this exact same sequence of chords for the 4 chord. D7, E minor 7, F diminished, and a D chord with F sharp in the bass. So what we have so far, there's our 1 chord to our 4 chord, Now we're gonna go back to our 1 chord, bar 3 of the blues. And for bar 4, let's just take that same sequence, go backwards. A over C sharp, C diminished, B minor 7 to A7. So now we're at bar 5 in the blues. We could just go back to this little D7 shape. But let's actually move to the next string set. So for our 4 chord in bar 5 the blues, we'll play this D7. So now we're dealing in 4-note chords. Then to C over D, just like a little C triad with a D in the bass. You could also call this D sus. To D diminished, to D7. So that whole 4-beat sequence. D7, D sus, D diminished, D7. And because we're on the 4 chord for 2 bars in the blues, for bar 6, we can just take this back down. D7, D diminished, C over D, or D sus, and D7. Then we'll go back to our 1 chord. Take it back down. So now we're at the 5 chord in the blues, and on the 5 chord, let's just do that same sequence we did for our D7, based off of the 5th string, the 4-note chords. Let's just do it from an E7. So E7, D over E, or E sus, E diminished to E7. Then we go back to our 4 chord. Now for our 1 chord, let's do our little sequence, but do it on a higher string set. So we'll do A7, B minor 7, C diminished to A7. So here that is slowly. Then let's slide up to this A7 voicing. And to turn it around, let's play an F9 to an E9. So that last little bit will be. And that takes us back to the top of the blues form. So we could play this entire thing with quarter notes, meaning 1 chord per beat. Like that. But another way to make it a little more interesting is to syncopate the rhythm, meaning put an emphasis on one of the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that and of 3, we're going to hit the chord. It makes it a little more interesting to listen to. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That down. Then I'm ending with a nice A13 here. So this may sound a bit like an exercise, a bit predictable, a bit methodical. This is really meant to be more of an etude or an exercise to develop this. You can go ahead then and mix some of these concepts in with your other blues comping. So my advice to you is to try this in a bunch of different keys, try putting it in blues progressions and getting it into your chord vocabulary. I hope this lesson was helpful. Thank you for watching. Once again, my name is Jamie Ayer, and I will see you in the next lesson.